Everyone, hopefully we are live. Sorry, there was a little bit of confusion. There were two workshops created on LinkedIn, so hopefully people will find the right link and join right here. But so I will give them a little bit of time to join this link, and I will be checking on chat if there are messages here. Please let me know if you can hear me properly and if everything is correct. So the purpose of this workshop is we're going to create series of workshops. This one is intended for absolute beginners, for somebody who never created any application in React. So if you have more knowledge, like if you created multiple projects, this is nothing for you because you're gonna get bored with this project. Trust me. So we're just gonna create very simple project, very simple quiz application, and then in future workshop we're gonna make it more complex. We're gonna add a backend. We're gonna add a dashboard where we can create different questions, different type of questions and answers that we can set in this application. But for now, we're just gonna create very simple application. Like again, it's suited for people who never coded in React, or maybe you watch a couple of React projects here and there, and you watch a couple of tutorials, and you want to get yourself under the project and get some new interesting experience. So I'll just wait for a couple of minutes for everybody to join, and then we can start coding. Okay, so I see a lot of people is joining already. That's a good thing to know. So yeah, just to give you a little bit of explanation of how this workshop is going to work. So we're going to create a series of these workshops, and this one is going to last for like 40 minutes. We'll see how it's going to go. And after the workshop, we're going to create a Q&A session. So intention of this Q&A is to answer the questions which you had about the project that we coded together, and hopefully you're going to learn a thing or two in these workshops. So yeah, I'm looking forward to make this happen. I'm feel excited. I hope you are too. So hopefully this is going to be your first React application. You're going to learn a thing or two, and we're going to have a lot of fun together. And maybe I answer some of the questions that you have apart from this project. Maybe you have career questions, stuff like that, and we can make this a weekly thing. So yeah, that's it. If you guys don't know me, my name is Slova. I come from Serbia, and I've been a front-end developer for like almost a decade. And I've been active on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube as well for like almost 3 years. I create daily content, post tips and tricks on this social media, and also I create tutorials. Theory-based, project-based on YouTube channel. So if you're up for that, you can go and check my channels. So now let me share my screen and we can start with creating this project. I see people are joining, so that's good enough. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, cool. So first thing first, I want to open up Git Bash here on my desktop. So Git Bash, and let me zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm typing. If you have issues with the audio or something, please let me know. But I think you should be able to hear what I'm saying. Okay, so I'm gonna create new project, and I'm using Vite. I see there's a lot of excitement about Vite lately, and even Angular included in there. It's basically a building tool, and the good thing about Vite is it's fast, it's simple. You don't have to worry about almost any configuration, and it's ideal for beginners. So that's why I like to use Vite. So in order to use the Vite, you need to have npm installed on your machine. I'm using npm version 9, but you should be using version 7 plus in order to write exactly the same commands as I'm writing here. So let me type npm create. We want to create new project, and we're going to use Vite, type in latest, and name of our application is, let's name it as my quiz. And then we want to use the template. So dash dash and then empty space and then dash dash template, like so. And now just hit enter. And while that's installing, let me check the messages. There's a lot of messages, so that looks great. Okay, so actually it says select the framework. Looks like that. Yeah, actually we need to, let me just close this. We need to select what template we want. So for our case, we want it to be React. So npm create with at latest name of your application here, and then dash dash template. And now we want to provide what is the template. So I want to provide React, like so, and now hit enter. So you don't have to worry about installation and anything. So you can see it takes just a couple of seconds. Now we should open up Visual Studio Code, or what is your code editor. So just open up that folder which we created. So it's named My Quiz. Select folder, and let me just zoom in. So now I can open up the terminal inside of the Visual Studio Code. And what I want to do, I want to add Sass. So I want to support for Sass. So just type in npm add -d for dev, and let's add Sass for development dependencies, basically. And let's wait for a couple of seconds to install. Hi to everybody. I see people are joining from all over the globe. That's very nice. I will check all the messages when you're done with the stream, but please stay around to see the Q&A session. Also, if you're not able to watch the entire workshop right now, it's going to be uploaded to my YouTube channel, so you will have a chance to watch it later on. So don't worry about that. Okay, let me clear console. Okay, let me install all the dependencies. So npm I for install. And let's run this bad boy. So you just need to type in npm run dev. It should start a development server for you. And there you go. It's just like 500 milliseconds. It's very fast. Okay, let me import it here. And let me just bring up this window as well. We're going to need it just in a second. So, and with that, we have created our application. So let me shrink it down. So here, let's first see what we got with this building tool. So let me shrink down this terminal. First, we have generated our folder here, and obviously we install all the packages that we need for our application. And if you go to the package.json file, we can see that we only have React and React DOM, only two packages. That's amazing. And also in the dev dependencies, so these are the dependencies that are used only during the development. So we have types for React, we have with React plugin, and we have the Sass for compiling the Sass code. And obviously we wanted to install the Vite for itself. So there is not a lot of packages inside of this project, and that is the reason why this is very fast. And not only that, but among other things. And as you can see here, we have among the scripts 3 commands that we can run. So npm run dev starts your development server. You have npm run build, which builds your project, and later we're gonna build the project and upload that to probably Netlify. I'll check it later, and you can preview as well. And apart from that, we have this public folder, and inside of this public folder, you usually put stuff which are not included inside of your JavaScript file, like robot.txt file. So the files which you are not including inside of your JavaScript code are usually placed here. And then we have this git ignore. Obviously, this is the file which is ignoring all these directories. So it may be something like VS Code, you can see here, or node module. So you don't want to commit that, right? And then you have this index.html file. So inside of this file, we're just including the main JSX file, and we're going to get there just in a second. It is in the source folder. And we have this root div folder. So this is the main folder of every React application. Why that is the case? Because the entire application gets injected inside of this root folder. Okay. I'm just checking the chat messages, and are you guys able to follow along? Okay, so inside of this source folder, which is the main folder, obviously, we have this assets folder. Inside of this assets folder, you place all of your assets. So like images, I don't know, not CSS files. CSS files are here, but images, icons, things like that, fonts, obviously, and that is for it. Here we have app.css file. This file is a styling file for our only component, which is the app component. I can remove all the CSS code because we are not gonna apply any CSS code for our app component. At the moment, the app component is the only component inside of our application, so we can remove actually all of this code because we're gonna create our own code. So I can remove all of this boilerplate code. Here, I can just write hello as a placeholder. So let's remove the logo, React logo, use state hook, all of this. And we even don't need this CSS file. So just to clean up things. Okay, here we have this index.css file, which is basically, I can also remove everything from there. This is like a global CSS file where you apply some styles to your entire application. So share CSS. And then we have this main.jsx file, and this is the file where we are importing that CSS file. We are importing our app component. And what we are doing here, as you can see here, we are importing React DOM, and we are creating our application using create root. And then we are selecting the root div. So this is the div inside of our index file here, root div. And what we're doing is we're just injecting or rendering this app component, and we are applying this strict mode. I mean, strict mode is something that helps you, provides you with it's more strict and gives you more errors, so it's more stricter. But and also, what I don't like about strict mode is that it forces your application to re-render twice. So I usually like to remove that. This is not recommended, obviously. You want to run it in strict mode, but for this workshop, I'll just remove it. And let me check our browser to see what we have now. So basically, we just have this hello and nothing else. Cool. That's enough for now. Okay, so let me close this, open up the Visual Studio Code, and let's create our first component. So let's click here on Create New File, and let's name this component as quiz.jsx. Now we're going to create a very simple functional component. So just type in const quiz equals to, and it's going to be a very simple functional component. So, and we want to export it on the bottom, export default quiz, like so. So we are exporting this component as default. So what this basically means is, if you're importing this component in, let's say, in app.jsx file, so you would import it like this: import quiz from quiz. But if you are not to export it as default, so if we are like export it normally, just export const quiz, right? Then we would need to import it from object, because you can export different things. You can export constant, multiple things from one file. And in that case, you would need to import it from object as a property of that object. So, but if you export it as default, it means that this is the default export of this file. That is what it means here. Okay. So here we have this question, and every functional component needs to have a return statement. So that's something that we need to provide in any case. So let's just say hello from quiz. Let's save this component, and now let's just include it inside of our app component here. We already imported it here. Now let's just place it in our JSX code. Let's save it, and let's see if we have any errors or anything. It works without any issues. So in order to make our application easier, I hard-coded all the questions that we have. In some future workshops, we're going to have probably a backend where we are going to create new questions, store that maybe in a Firebase or some other databases. But for now, we're just going to use hard-coded questions. So in order to get these questions, you need to go to this URL. So github.com/bobangaitsama/common. So let me just copy this link to the chat. We can go over there if you're following along. If you're not, it's going to be on my YouTube channel in the description. So anyway, if you're watching on YouTube as a recording, it's going to be in the description. If you're following along in this workshop, which I highly recommend, just check in the chat. I just dropped this URL. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to go and basically copy this entire object. And what this basically is set of questions. So it's array of objects, and inside of this array we have a question, which is usually obviously the main question of that object, and then we have the choices, and we have which is the type of the question. And this is going to be very important later on when you create different type of questions. But for now, we only have multiple choice questions. And then we have the correct answer for every single question. And we just have 5 questions. That's it. So copy that, head over to our app, and let's create a new file here inside of our source folder. And let's name it constants, like so. And make it as a JavaScript file. And let's just paste all these questions. Like so. Now what we want to do is we actually want to go inside of our app.jsx file, inside of our app component, and we want to pass all the questions there. So you may want to, we want to create application or actually component, which can be used on different places in the application. And we may want to send or fetch different questions. So this is why we are passing this as a property. So in order to add new property, just type in questions, and then let's first import the questions from this file. So let's import. And again, this is not a default import, so actually export. So that's why we need to import it in this way. So instead of the curly braces, so we are basically destructuring it. So let's name the object as JS quiz from constant. And now we can pass in the questions from this object here. And let's pass in the questions that we have. So what we are doing is we are basically passing the array of these questions here. Okay, I can close that now. I can close the app.js as well. I can close this app.css file because we're not going to use it at all. Okay, so inside of our quiz component, now we're getting the questions. So we can access them like this. Okay, and what we're going to do here first, I want to create a container. So let me remove this hello from quiz. I want to create a container. Actually, let me open up parentheses, and inside of these parentheses, let's create a new div. So, and why I want to create a React div instead of, div instead of React fragments is because I want to add a class name. So, you can even add a class name to React div, but React fragment, but yeah, this is the easier way. So class name, let's add it as a quiz container, okay? And now let's head over to index.css and let's add some basic CSS rules. So let's first establish what colors we are going to have on our application. So let's set the primary one to be blue color, and this is going to be, actually we need to rename because we want to use this as here. So let's just rename this file to CSS, like so. Okay, and now let's add 150 080. Okay, so this blue color is going to be our primary color. Then we want to add accent color, and it's going to be something like orangey. So D08642. So then we want to add a color for the background. So let's name this variable as BG, and it's just going to be white color. So FF, like so. Now we want to add BG-accent. Where's the link to the questions? Okay, let me paste once again in case you lost it. So here in Git, again, I'm pasting the link for questions in the chat. So please check the chat here again. Okay, so background accent color, it's going to be E7, E8, E9. It's going to be this light gray color. Then we're going to have disabled color, and it's going to be 9C, 9C, 9C. It's like darker gray. And at the end, we're going to have foreground, or this is used for text, obviously. Foreground. And for foreground, we're going to have 2B26 4B. Okay. This dark color, obviously, for text. And now let's add some styles to our quiz container. So, okay, let me just check our application to see if we have any issues. Okay, so we have one issue. And this is because we are importing the index.css file in our main JSX component, and we don't have that. So inside of our main JSX, we need to import the SAS file which we created. Let's save it. And now we're live again. So just to check the console, if we have any errors there, it works as expected. So that's fine. But we don't have any text because we removed everything from our file here. Okay, so let me open up the Visual Studio Code again. Let me close this file. And we defined all the styles that we have. Now let's style this quiz container. So let me copy this class. So I usually like to copy classes because that way I, remove the possibility of making the mistake with classes. Okay. Yeah, we have a lot of people watching, so that's always nice. So here, first, I want to add a font family, monospace. Now I want to add some background, and I want to make like a linear background, so with a gradient. So let's add a background to linear gradient. And what I want to add is first 0 degrees. So this is on degrees, which you want. This is basically the angle, right? You want your gradient to go. So I want to set the first primary color, primary, and then I want to set 0.0.3%. This is basically how strong the gradient is. And I want to gradient 2, so we need the 2 colors, and the second one should be accent. This one. Save, and let's see what we get here, but we actually don't have anything inside of our primary container, so we cannot see it yet. Okay, so let's set the color our container to be foreground. So this is the color of our text. And then I want to display it as flex. I want to center everything inside of our content. So center, display contents, the center. And I want to set the margin to centerify this. Okay, so margin 0 auto, so because I want it to be in the center. And let's add some padding to this container. So 0 on the top and the bottom, and we want to add some padding on the left hand side, right? 30 pixels. Inside of this container, we're gonna add some questions, obviously, and the answers. And let's set the height to be 100 window height. Okay, viewport height actually. Okay, and there you go. This is our beautiful background here that we have. Looks nice. Okay. Yeah, but I see that actually there's this padding on the background, which I actually don't like. So probably we should add a padding to the actual quiz container, and we can apply this background color to the body itself. So let me fix that. So let's, instead of the quiz container, let's add this styles to the body container here. So we can set the font family foreground here, the body itself, and like so. Let's copy over to the body itself. Okay, like so. And now I want to set the quiz container to have the less width. So there you go. This looks much better here. Okay, so let's continue. Let's actually get back to quiz, and let's pop in some content inside of our quiz container here. Okay, so first thing which I want to create on the top of the quiz is the number of questions that we have and the length. So basically where we are at in the current quiz. So with the current question, what is the current active question? So let's add 2 spans. Actually, let's add first React fragment here, and let's add a first span. Okay, and the first span is going to be to active questions. So let's add a class name, and let's name this one as active-question-number. And here we're gonna access. So we now can access. Actually, we can create a new variable, and we can call this variable as like current question. So let's import the use state hook, which we are going to use for handling the state of our functional components. So let's import use state hook. If you're not familiar, useState hook is basically a function which helps you to manage the state of your functional component. Previously, we were able only to make dummy functional components, but with useState, you're able to create variables and update their state. So how do you do that is by just calling useState hook. You provide the initial value when you initialize the hook, and then this function returns an array. And this array contains two things. So the first thing which contains this array is the name of the variable which you want to create. So let's name this one as current question. And the second thing is the updater function. So using this function, you can update this variable here. Okay. So let's call this one as set current question. And this is the naming convention that you usually want to follow. So you create the variable name, and then you just append the set on it. So this is how you usually do it. Okay, so the current question is going to be 0, obviously. So we want to start with 0. So, and here we want to say, now we can include the current question. And we want to add, because 0 is something which is not user friendly, so let's just add 1 on it. So this is like current question is the first question. Now let's copy paste this line, and the second thing which we want to do is we want to display the total questions that we have. So here let's name this class as total-questions, and here we may want to use the question length, and how we may find that is using this questions object that we're getting from our app file here. So what we can do here is let's create a constant, and let's destructure the object that we are getting from the questions here. Here, so what we want to access is the current question. So for us is because questions is the array of questions, and we want to access the current question here, obviously. And okay, let's see. Cannot we declare? Yeah, okay, because we are not, we haven't created variables. We haven't destructured this object yet. So what we want to get from the current question is we want to get a question. What is the current question? We want to get the choices, and we want to get the correct answer. So correct answer. So we are pulling these properties from the question. So if I go to constant, you can see from question, we have a question, we have choices, we have the correct answer. So this is what we are pulling in here. Okay, so I can close these constants here. And now what we can do is we can use the question. We can usually, in order to display the total questions, we can actually just use the questions.length. That's it. So now if I save, let me refresh. And here we get K1 through 67. Okay, so let me just see. Actually, we need to add this, or actually we took a question, not the question. So this is the amount of characters that we have inside of a question. So make sure this is the multiple, this is the question. And also what I want to add is I want to add a / here. Can add it here. So to know what is the active and what is the current state of the question. So let me open again. Okay, so we are on the first question, and we have 5 questions. So yeah, this looks correct. Okay, let's continue. So now what I can do is I can apply some styles to these questions. So it's nice and formatted. So the quiz container, first, what I want to do is I want to set the maximum width to this container and make it in the center. So let's set the width of this container to be 500 pixels. Let's set the background to be the variable which we created at the beginning, and it's going to be background. I see there's a lot of questions on chat. Unfortunately, I cannot answer them at this moment. I will be answering the question after the coding session, so stick around, please. So yeah, then we're going to go through all the questions, I mean, in reasonable amount of time that I can cover. Okay, so background BG, then let's set some border radius. Obviously, you don't want to have boxes without the border radius. So let's set the border radius to be 4 pixels. Let's add some margin on top, and let's set it to be 4 pixels as well. Or actually, let's let's make it much more distant from the top of our screen. So margin top 100 pixels. Let's add some padding. So let's add padding 30 pixels and 60 pixels on left and on the right. So on top and the bottom, 30 pixels, left, right, 60 pixels. And let's set the box sizing to be a border box because we don't want this padding to reduce the size of or increase the size of our previous container. So let me save and let's see, do we get our container? Okay, there you go. So we have this container nice here displayed. Okay, so let me get back. Actually, let me reduce the zoom a little bit. Okay, to 200 pixels, so it's not too large. Yeah, I'm trying to make it larger so you guys that are watching on your phones can see it as well. So now what we want to style is our active question. So let me copy this class again. Again, I like to copy paste the classes because uh, I cannot I cannot misspell the name of the classes. What we can do as well, we can put it inside of our quiz container because we are using SAS, so we can nest our CSS rules. So what I want to do here is let's set the font size to 32 pixels. Let's make it a little bit bolder. So let's set font weight to 500. And let's set the color to primary. So it's that blue color here. Okay, now let's save this and let me go and take total questions as well here. And let's nest it below the active question here. And I want to set the font size to be a little bit smaller. So let's set font size to 16 pixels. Font weight to be same to 500, so a little bit bolder. And let's set color to gray. So let's use the disabled color which we defined on top here, like so. Now let's see our colors. Okay, beautiful. This is something that which I wanted. Yep. So that's it. Okay, so let's continue and building. Hopefully you have time to follow along what I'm doing here. So yeah. Then below this, I want to create a title, and basically here we want to show the text of our question. So let's just do the question here. So here we are accessing the question which we destructured from our questions array. So this is going to be dynamic. So when we change the current question, when we go to 1, 2, 3, 4, this is going to be different because we are re-rendering quiz component on every single state change. And this question text is going to be different. So let's see what is the question text on the first one. So if you go and head over, so these are basically all React questions. So I can even reduce because this is a little bit too big. So which of the following is used in React.js to increase performance? So this is the first question that we have. Okay, nice. And now let's apply some styles to our title here. So what we can do is below here, we can target H2, and let's set the font size to 20 pixels. And let's set, again, font weight to be 500 pixels, or not pixels, just 500, because this is not defined in pixels. And we want to set the margin to 0. So yeah, to reset the margin of the H2 tag. For the heading, yeah, like this. Beautiful. Okay, let me get back to the editor. And let's continue with our coding. So below of our question, we want to render the answers. So actually the choices which you can make. So in order to do that, so we need to create an unordered list. And now we need to go and look to the choices that we have. So how we do that in React is we just call the array, and then we execute. If you're familiar, obviously, with JavaScript, we use the map function to iterate to the array and return back new array. And that's exactly what we're doing here. Instead of new array, we're just going to return new elements. So this is what we're doing in React. So instead of the map, we can access first the actual answer or the choice, however you want to call it. And then we want to access the index, current index of the iteration. And then what we want to return back is we want to return the li, or list item here. Instead of this list item, so the only thing which is absolutely required to create when you're rendering items inside of the React is the key, because using this key, React is able to identify and differentiate which item in the array list is being changed. So it only updates that item, and it's not re-rendering the entire list. So the key always needs to be unique. And let's set the key to be to answer. So because we have every single answer, or the choice is different, so we can use the key for that purpose. Then what we want to do is we want to create on-click event, because once we click on li, we want to perform some action, obviously. So we add on-click event. This is event handler, obviously, and we want to execute the function. So we can just use this fat arrow function, and we want to pass in on. Basically, we're going to create a new function just in a second, and let's name it on answer. And what we want to pass in, we want to pass the answer which we clicked on, and we want to pass an index. And let's create this function here, just above. So let's create a new function, and let's name it on answer click. This function creates, or actually receives, two properties. The first one is the answer or the choice. Let's put it here. And the second one is the index, if I may spell it correctly. And the second one is the index. So we are sending these parameters from here. Okay. So what we want to do here is basically we want to create a new variable, and using that variable, we're going to set the answer index. So we need another variable, and we can use again useStateHook. So let's create a new variable, and again useStateHook. And for the initial state, let's set it to null, because when we render our application, we haven't selected any questions yet. So the first initial state is null. And then we want to create a variable and the function to updating that variable. So let's name it as answer index. And the function, again, you usually use just the variable and you add a set on it. And make sure that it's camel case, like this, set answer index. Now what we can do when somebody clicks on the answer, we can save that index. So, and how we do that is just by using this function here. So we are updating this this variable here. So just set the index of the answer to be this index which we got from the map here. And then we want to check if the answer which we selected is the correct answer. So how we do that is we just check if the answer is equal to the correct answer. And we get the correct answer again from the constants here and here. For every question, we have the set of choices, and we have the correct answer. And for the first one, we can see what are the answers, obviously. And for the first one is virtual DOM. So it's going to compare if the choice is equal to the correct answer. I mean, you could make this to compare the indexes as well if your choices have indexes and correct answer. But for this use case, we're just using the strings. So, I mean, that's not ideal, but it works. Okay. If answer is the correct answer, if it is, we want to set the answer to be true. So we again need another variable. So let's just copy paste this line, because we're going to use it again. And let's set the initial value to be just empty as well, null, let's say. Or we can even set it to be empty string, whatever we want. And let's name this variable as answer. And we're going to set the updated function to be set answer, like so. And now what we can do is, if the answer is correct, we can use the set answer. I mean, it would be more appropriate to be null. Okay. And then we set the answer to true. Otherwise, we want to set it to false. Else, set the answer to be false. So we want to mark if the answer is correct or not. So now this answer is a variable which holds the actual state of our answer. So now we can add different dynamic classes to our list item. So here, what we can do, we can add a class name. And inside of this class name, we're going to check if the answer is correct or not. So if the answer index. Here we're actually checking if the item is selected or not. And depending on that, we're gonna display different styles. So if the answer index is equal to index, if it is, this means that this is a selected answer. So we're gonna give it a class selected dash answer. Otherwise, we're not gonna display or we're not gonna render anything, any class to it. So like so. And don't forget that we need to render the choice inside of the list item. So, and we name that as the answer here. And let's save this and let's see what we have inside our array. So as you can see, we have unordered list with all the choices, but we cannot do anything for now. As you can see, let's first apply some styles to it. So let's head over to our index.scss file here and let's apply some styles. So first, below our h2, let's target the unordered list. Okay, there's a typo on the unanswered click, so let's see. Somebody is suggesting this is why it's good to have an audience. So let's see unanswered click. So yeah, let me see. Just for now, I don't see. So what we can, how we can actually we can test if our function is working. So we can just log the answer or just display it. So what we can do is here inside of our quiz container, we can just render our answer here. And if you go to our DOM here, we can just refresh. And if we click, you can actually see that, yeah, it's not getting rendered. So if I inspect the tool, let me just see. I don't have any issues. So let me just recheck. So for the answer, let's see. Answer should be false or true. So if I click on the unanswered click, okay, we're setting the answer ID here. So to be the index, and we are checking if the answer is equal to the correct answer. Then we are setting the answer to be true or false, like so. And then we can render here our answer. Let me just, this is live debugging. So yeah, so we are not getting anything. So if I click on it, actually, yeah, you're probably having a typo for the actual on click event. So okay. Let me just see. We have the answer. Key is the answer. What answer? Okay, we are using the same. So what we can do is we can call it as a choice here. We're using the same variable name. We can use it. We can call it as a choice, and here we are setting the choice. And the key is the choice as well. And let's add the choice here. And also, I see that we misspelled, but that's not a problem. Okay. So if we go again, if we click on it, so nothing's happening. And let me just open up console. Okay, so we don't have any errors. That's at least that's good. Yeah. So, but let's see why we are not updating. So here, set current choice. We can even debug it from here. So let's console log what we're getting in the function. So let's log the answer. And let's log the index. Like so. Let's close it down and let's see now what we get when we click on the item itself. We have first virtual DOM, then we have original DOM, both A and B, and we get none of the above. So this actually is working, it's connected correctly, but we're not just rendering our answer here. Okay, but that's fine. Now let's see how we can test this. First is we want to add some CSS to our selected answer. So first let's add some styles to our unordered list. So let's add margin dash top, which is 20 pixels. Let's add some margin on the left side. And let's add minus 40 pixels because we have have some margin on the left side. I just want to shift it back, so like so. And then let's target the list items. Target, I think. Okay, so let's set the text decoration to be none, so we don't want anything text decoration. Let's remove the bullet point, so list style set to none. You want to set the color to be foreground, like so. Let's set the font size to be 16 pixels. Let's set the background to be to BG, like so. Let's add a little bit of border so it's nice and rounded. So border, let's say 1 px solid, and let's add a disabled color. So this is like a gray color, obviously. Now let's add a border radius. Let's add a 16 pixel border radius, and let's add a padding of, let's say, 11 pixels, like so. Let's add a margin top to 15 pixels, and let's add a cursor point so it looks like it's a button now, obviously. Cursor pointer, like so. Okay, let's save it. Let's save the quiz. Okay, and let's see how our buttons looks like now. Okay, much better. Cool. Okay, that's very nice. And now when we click on a button, we should get a new class. So let's see, we get a selected answer class, and now we should add different styles to that list element. So let's add inside of the or actually we can add it below this li item. So we named it as, let me see what is the name of the class, selected answer. So you want to apply different rules to it. Okay, so select answer. We just want to change the background to it. So let's set the background to be primary, and let's add a different border. So let's add border 1 px solid, and let's add accent color so it's more, it pops up more. And let's add the color to be BG, like so. So let's save this and let's preview again. And there you go. So this looks like, correct. So yeah. So now we're able to select the color and we get the visual representation of it. So I can close this. Yeah, cool. Okay, let's continue. So we want to add, below that, we want to add a button. Okay, so let's add below this under the list, let's add a div. So this is going to be like a footer for our container. So let's add a class name here. Let's add a class name, and it's going to be footer. And instead of this footer, let's add a button. So this is going to be like a button for next and finish. So, okay, instead of this button, we're just going to check if the current question is equal to the questions.length. So basically, it means if we are at the end, current question length -1. If we are, then we want to display finish. So this is just a basic ternary operator. If we are at the end, so if the current question is the question minus length -1, we want to display finish. Otherwise, we want to display next. Okay, like so. And then we want to add a new on-click event here. And we're just going to give a new function that we're going to create. And also what we want to do is we want to set disable state. Okay, let me close that. So disable, and it's disabled if there is no answers. So if we haven't set anything. So if answer index is equal to null. So if we haven't selected anything, so, and the initial state of the answer index is null here. And now for the actual function, let's create a new function. Let's call it onClick next. Here. So let's create it here, const new function. Like so, and actually I can remove these logs here. We don't need it because we proved that our function works. Okay, so let me just save and see how our button looks like. And okay, it looks decent. Okay, we need to apply some styles to it, but yeah, if I refresh, it should be disabled, as you can see, so you cannot click it. Then when you click on it, it's enabled, and now you can click on it. Okay, so let's apply some styles to it. So let's go to index.css, and let's below this selected answer. Let's add some styles. So, okay, inside of the quiz container, make sure to, to have the correct order of the rules. So let's first add some styles to the footer. I think we named it footer. Let me see. Yeah, footer. And first I want to set it as a flex because I want to align our button on the right side. So let's set the justify content to flex end. So this will make our button to go on the right side. Here. And now let's add some styles to our button. We can place it inside of or outside of our footer because we're going to have another button as well. So actually we're not. This is the only button that we have, so we can be inside of the footer. Let's leave it outside. I just don't know where to put it, so it doesn't matter. It's inside of the container. So let's add the background. I want this to have the similar background as we have on the actual body. So let me copy this here. That it has very unique. So 0 degrees primary, and this is the actual gradient that we apply, and the second color is the accent color. Now let's add some border radius to our button. So let's add 9 pixels, like so. Let's add a font size to 18 pixels. Let's add a color to like PG color. Let's add some padding so it's a little bit larger. So 10 pixels on bottom and top, and we want 42 pixels on the left and the right side. So let's remove that terrible outline. So let's add none. Also, let's remove the border. So let's border to none as well. Let's add some margin separation from the question. So margin top 15 pixels, like so. And what I want to add as well is we can also add a cursor pointer. And what we can do is we want to target the disabled state. So disabled, and when it's disabled, let's set the background to be BG accent, and let's add the color to be disabled, and let's add the cursor as well to not allowed. So demonstrate that you're not allowed to click on it. So let's save and let's see how it looks now. Okay, so if I refresh, I can zoom out a little bit so you can see you cannot click on it, and you visually see that you're not able to click on it. Yes, you're right. So ideally, let me just click on it just to see how this button looks. So somebody asked a question, wouldn't it be ideal to put all the components inside of a separate folder and then to put all the styles in separate file, obviously, for this component only? Yes, this is something that you would do as your application starts growing. But for this purpose, this is actually the only component that we're going to have. So ideally, you would create a new folder with a quiz component, and inside of that folder, you would create a new CSS style, same as app has, app.jsx and app css, and then you would only put the files, the styles and the rules that you want to apply to that quiz component. This is ideal how you want to create. So we're going to have some refactoring, but that's not the purpose of this tutorial. For this tutorial, we're just going to build this simple, very simple component, and for optimizations, we're going to leave for the future workshops. Okay, nice. So what we're going to do here is we want to handle this on click next. So what happens once we select the answer here, we want to click on next, and something should happen, right? So we want to check if this is the correct answer or not. If it is, we want to store some points. So we want to, at the end of this questionnaire, we want to show you how many points you have you made. So, and then to show you a score, and if you want to retake this course again, or questionnaire, not course. So let's do that inside of this on click next here. Okay. So here we want to first set to reset the answer here, because we clicked on next and we want to prepare for the next step. So let's set it to now here. And now we want to update the answer, the actual answer. So we can use the set answer. Or actually we need another variable, and we can call that one as result. So let's name it as a result, and we want to be able to update this function. So let's call it set result, and this function is going to use it again. And we want to define initial state. to this variable. So we can define this initial state inside of our constant here. So here, let's create a new object because we're gonna reset state at the end. So that's why we can reuse this definition. So export const, and let's call it result initial state, like so. So what we want to set here, we want to set the score. So initial state of the score is going to be 0. Correct answers is going to be obviously 0, and wrong answers going to be 0 as well. So yeah. Now we can import this object here. So we can use it as the initial state here. And let me import this object from constant here, like so. This is the initial state that we have here for the result. And now what we want to do is we want to update that state depending on the actual answer. So if the answer, because here we are setting the answer to be true or false when we are clicking on the item, and here we want to check. So you want to set result, use this function to update the actual result. Here, set result. So here we get the previous value of our result inside of this set state. And here we're going to check if the answer is correct. If the answer is correct, we just want to, we basically want to return back a new answer. So we can remove this curly brackets because we want to return this and update our current result. So what we want to create is we want to create a new object, and we want to destructure what was in the previous object here. And let me just see. You want to destructure it. And what we want to update, we want to update if it's correct. We want to update the score to increase it. So let's update the score. So we take the previous score and we increase it by, let's say that the score value is 5 for every single answer. And we want to update the number of correct answers. So what we do is we take the previous correct answers and we just increase them by 1. That's what we want to do here. But if the user has answered incorrectly, then again, we want to destructure our previous value. So we are returning back a new object. We are destructuring the previous values, and we set the wrong answer. We're not increasing the points. We could decrease on some questionnaires. You have to decrease if you set the wrong answer, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to decrease the correct answers. So we're actually going to use the wrong answers, and we're going to increase the previous wrong answers, and we're going to increase that. We're not actually going to decrease the correct answers, but we're going to increase the wrong answers. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. And like so. And what we're going to do here. So we want to check the set. Once we click on the next, we want to update the score, and then we want to move over to the next question, right? So here we're going to, after this set result, we're going to check if the current question, we want to check if this is like the last question, right? So if the current question, it's not on the last question. How we check that is we just take the questions dot length -1. -1. So if we are not on the last question, we can just move to the next one. So let's set the current question. So we are using this set current question function to update the current function of variables. So set the current question to be current question +1. Or we can even use like previous value and just set the previous value +1. We can do that as well, like this, like so. Otherwise, if it's not, we want to set the current question to 0. So if you reach the end, we want to reset. So set the current question be 0, like so. And now what we want to do is we need to create another function, or actually another variable. And we want this variable to tell us whether we want to show the result or not. So let's create another one. So let's create a const, and let's name it as show result. Yeah, show result. And update a function again, set show result. And the initial value is going to be false, obviously. And using this function, we're going to toggle the actual what we render on our page. So when we get to the end here, we want to set our result to be seen. So set show result to true. We want to show the result here. And now what we can do is we can create a new section here inside of the quiz container. And we want to check. We can open up the expression and we want to check if show result is false, we want to render what we already have, obviously. Otherwise, we want to render the new section that we're going to create just in a second here. It's going to be just div, okay? And let me take this React fragments and let me put it inside of here. Okay. Like so. And inside of this div, we're just going to show the results. So let's name this div. Let's add a class name, and it's going to be result. And here we're going to have h3 heading, and it's going to just say result, and we're going to display all the results that we have. So let me save this, and let's try if it works correctly until now. So what we have done is we click on one of the items and click on the next, and we get redirected to the next question, and that works correctly. So we are able to click on the questions, and I'm just randomly selecting questions. And when we get to for the fifth one, so we're on the last one, we get the text finish. When you click on it, so we should get result. Yes, we get the result div back. So now we need to display all the scores and all the information. Okay, so let's do that. So inside of this result, what we want to score, we want to show the score basically. So let's add the first paragraph, and let's say total questions, and we had like a span, and we just say questions dot length. So here we just display what is the length of the questions. Let's copy paste this line as well here. So let me copy paste a couple of times. For the second one, let's say total score, and we can access that from the result. As you may remember, we updated the result here. So we now have this score, correct answers, and wrong answers. So let's just display them. So in the total questions, okay, here's the total score, and we just access the result and score. Then we have the total answers, actually correct answers. Correct answers, and we just go to result dot correct answers. Let me copy this line again. Then we have wrong answers. And then we just take this wrong answers parameter here. And let's try that out. And actually, while we're here, let's add a button. So we want to add another chance to whoever is taking the course or questionnaire, sorry again. And let's just say try again, like so. Now let's head over to our, and there you go. So here we have the result. We have total 5 questions. I got 15 randomly by answering randomly, and we got 3 correct answers. So 3 times 5 is 15, and we have 2 wrong answers. And if you click try again, nothing's happened. So we need to go that. So let's create a new onClick event, and let's create a new function. Let's call it on try again here. Copy. Let's create a new function here. And all we want to do here is we want to reset our state back to null. So let's set result to be to initial result. So we're going to use that object that we imported. So use the result initial state. Yeah, so we want to set result initial state, and we want to set the show answer, set show result to false, like so. And now when we click on it, it should set the results to initially to zeros and set show result to false. And we already set here, if we get to the last question here, we want to set the current question to be 0. So we have resetting here as well. So let's add some CSS as well to it. Let's see what we can apply. So we can center everything, all the text that we have in the middle. So let's target the result. I think that we name it result. Let me just see. Result, yes. And let's text align it to center, like so. Let's add some styles to our HD, our heading. It's H3, yes, for the result. And let's say we want to be font size to be 24 pixels. Let's set the letter spacing to be 1.4 pixels, and let's align it as well, text align center. Yes, like so. And then let's add some styles to our paragraphs. So let's add the font size to be 16 pixels. Let's set the font weight to be a little bit bolder to 500, and let's style the spans that we have inside it. So let's set the color to be primary. So we want to distinguish a little bit the actual values that we have inside of the paragraph. And let's add the font size to be 22 pixels. I know the sim is taking a little bit longer than what I initially thought, but we're finishing up, so stay with me. Okay, so we're basically almost at the end. So you can see here, we have applied some primary color to our spans, to our actual scores. We have made it in the center. And if you click try again, it should reset the state. But actually it's not. So let me just recheck it again. So on click, we have a typo here. So it should be on click, like so. Let me save. Now let's try again. And there you go. So let me just refresh and let's start over again. So this should basically complete our tutorial, but let's just see which of the following is used in React.js to increase the performance. And that's virtual DOM. So let's click next. What is React.js? It's a user interface framework. Okay, identify the one which is used to pass the data components from outside. That's props. In which language is React.js written? That's JavaScript. And what is Babel? It's JavaScript compiler. Okay, and we got the correct answer 25, and total questions is 5. Total score is 25. Now let's try to answer all of them wrongly. So let's for the first one, this, none of the above, set state, Python, and none of the above. And there you go. So it says total questions 5, total score 0, correct answer 0, and wrong answers 5. So this basically shows us that we have correctly coded. So for the future workshops, what we're going to do is we're going to make this much more complex. We're going to first optimize, and we're going to make this by the standards. So probably we're going to move the CSS code that is only intended for this component inside of a separate component and a separate folder. And then we're going to add more complexity, like to add a dashboard where we can create questions. Also, we're going to save all the answers that we got, and maybe save the progress as well. Also create the users, create the authentication, so you can sign up, create your user profile, save your current score, and maybe even create different modules for the different topics that you can cover. So we're going to increase the complexity in the future sessions, but yeah, it's enough for today. So how we can build our project is very easily. So let me just clear the console. We just run npm run build, and we should build this project for us. So we get this new dist folder created, and this is the folder which we can upload to the server that we want. So what we can do is we can go to let's say netlify.com. You need to log in here. Obviously, you need to have an account. I have signed up already. And what you can do is you can add a new site, deploy. You can click on deploy manually, and all you need to do is here click on the upload folder. We can go to desktop, and this is the quiz app that we created, and click on the dist folder. So upload that folder. Let's upload it. Wait for a couple of seconds. It's uploading. It should be very fast because this is very lightweight component, and we get new file. If we click on it, new URL, we get our component live, up and running. I will just paste it in chat so you guys can play around if you want as well. If you have coded along with me, please share your links. I would like to see it. And basically, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we can go into Q&A session. So let me see if you guys have any questions for me, if I can answer it. It was a pleasure to have this first React.js workshop, building this quiz. It took a little bit longer than what I initially thought, but yeah, I'm still learning. I'm still getting used to the environment. Hopefully, you had a great time with me, and let me see if there's any questions. Okay, so the first question. Let me see. Wouldn't it be better to have a folder with all components inside and styling? Yes, I already answered this question. So basically, it would be definitely better, but we're gonna refactor our code in the future workshops. For this one, it was just let's build something for us. Let's get some experience, and we're gonna show best practices in future workshops. Okay, let's see if you guys have any questions. Please just there's a lot of high. A lot of people are just saying hi, so that's always good. But if you have any questions, I will try to answer them. The YouTube channel link. So code with Sloba. I will just type it in chat. Or actually, I can get you the actual link. Code with Sloba. YouTube channel. So you can go there and you can rewatch if you didn't have time to follow along, or you maybe joined later. Let me see. When is the next session? So probably I'll definitely make a post on LinkedIn. But my intention is to have it on every single Friday. I made it this week on Thursday because tomorrow is actually a holiday, so I'm off. But my intention is to have at least a couple of times per month. But ideally, like every single Friday, we're gonna have these workshops, and we're gonna make this application much more complex in like 4 or 5 sessions. It's going to be an awesome and outstanding. Okay, so let me see if there is any. I mean, there's a lot of questions, a lot of comments. I just need to get roll back. Okay, hello from India, from Kenya, from Ghana, Turkey, Cyprus. Okay, Nigeria. There's a lot of people joining. There's a typo on answer click. Yeah, we already fixed all the issues that we have had. Okay. Let me see. Is there any questions? Okay, so Tamer said, I just joined the event. I don't have enough background about React. Should I wait for the YouTube replay? Yes. I mean, ideally, that I assume that not everyone can join and watch the workshop live. So that's why it's going to be uploaded on my YouTube channel. I pasted the link in below here in chat, and you can all follow along here. So don't worry about that. Tunisia. So there's a lot of Haiti. And somebody just said hello from country. Yeah, content that is not visible. Please remove the blue strip. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, so unfortunately I didn't see that. So yeah, for the future events, definitely I'm gonna remove the bar on the bottom. Okay. Hello from Kurdistan, from Brazil. Yeah, where is the link to questions? I think that I already sent this one. So hopefully you guys were able to find it. After this session, is it available on YouTube or not? Definitely, it's available. It's going to be available on the live section on YouTube. So all the sessions that we're going to create are going to be available there. So don't you worry if you didn't have time to follow along. And also, apart from that, I'm gonna create a new repository on GitHub. I'm gonna upload all this code over there, so you're gonna be able to uh, you're gonna be able to pick up from the next section if you didn't want to follow along from this one, because this was too simple, very simple for especially for people who are coding a little bit in React. So maybe you want to join us on like third or fourth session, and where we spice up things and when we start building something more complex. So that's why I'm gonna uh, start uploading it on GitHub, and hopefully you're gonna have much more interesting sessions down the road. Okay, name of my YouTube channel is Code with Slova. So I already pasted the link in the chat below, so you can find it there. Okay, let me see. Okay, could you please state the big features on how Vite helps us to make tasks easy? So in order to run like single page application, you actually need to have a development server on your local machine, and using tools like Vite helps you to set up project very easily. And with Vite, it's just like one line of code to generate the project. I mean, it's similar with npx create React app, but the difference here is that with Vite, I saw that a lot of applications on the production actually perform much more better, and also they don't have like any building issues compared to npx create React app. And that's why I see that Vite is much more easier to work with. It has less setup. The configuration, there's less configuration, obviously, and it's much faster. Even Angular is including that since I think version 14 or 15, something like that. So it was optional, but it's going to be included as default for building their project as well. It's faster, it's simpler, and that's why I like Vite. You know. Okay, let's see. Learn once, write anywhere. Yeah, that's totally true. So I agree. So from Pakistan, Tunisia, there's a lot of. Can we get data structures and algorithm series in JavaScript? Well, I had actually an idea to start with that, but that's not my intention at the moment. To be honest with you, I'm probably gonna try to finish up with Angular and React series that I have on YouTube, and to create some of the workshops that I started as of now, and then maybe we can start, creating some data structures and algorithm series as well. And to be honest, I haven't been practicing those for quite some time, and you really need to be practicing them and reminding yourself in order to stay sharp. So I would need myself a good reminder on data structures and algorithms. So let's see. This is actually on Serbian, and it's asking, is there going to be anything with the APIs? Yes, there's going to be with API, but in the future workshops. So stay tuned if you guys want to learn backend. Also, I'm planning to bring somebody who's good at backend with DevOps, to bring guests on these workshops. So if you're interested to join the workshops as well, to code with me as well, please drop a comment, DM me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, or you can drop a comment on YouTube as well. So the requirement is to have the knowledge, to have good microphone, and to have the willingness to share it with others. So yeah, drop me a message if you want to join the workshop as a guest. Okay, npx create React app quiz app. Can't we do this? Yes, you can do this, but again, as I said, I like using Vite. It's faster, easier. It has ladder. I mean, it has similar setup, but for me, it's faster. That's what I like the most. Uh, Even from Ireland, yeah, I get. Yeah, that's very nice. I see so many people from so many countries. Hello from Colombia, Turkey, Brazil, Pakistan. There's so many people joining. I'm super happy that I see that the people were so interested. So let me just see if there is any more questions. Can we get a series on JavaScript? Again, this is the same question. To solve problems. So that's not my intention as of now, but maybe in the future, if I see that there is more requests for this one, maybe we start creating that. Okay. Yeah, a lot of people are just want to say hello, and that's nice. Yeah, let me just see on the end, because I scroll a lot. Okay, so some of the questions that you just recently asked. Nice workshop. You delivered the message in an easy way. I'm glad to hear that. And you guys, this is the first workshop. Actually, the second one. I had one in the previous year. So if you have any suggestions, a recommendation, whatever you have, please just drop it on my end. I want to hear it. I want to improve this workshop. But the main purpose of the workshop is to share knowledge, and for people who are just starting with React, to see this is nothing complex. We can start with easy stuff, and to build your way into this world. So it's nothing hard. Obviously, there are much more complex things, and things that you need to scratch your head around, and bang your head around against the wall in order to fix it. But that's normal thing in development. So you don't have to start like that. It should be funny, especially at the beginning. Next.js maybe in future. Absolutely. So Next.js is probably something, the first next thing which I'm going to build. I mean, not build, but which I'm gonna cover after the React series. So Next.js is something that there's a big hype around it, especially because of the SEO stuff. And actually, I built my website recently with Next.js. So yeah, I love Next.js. So it's probably going to be in the future. Not probably, but definitely going to be in the future. Um, okay, so hi Slaba, and thanks for sharing. Just quick question. Can you explain quickly difference between use memo and use callback? Okay, so the main difference between use memo and use callback is that I just recently explained that in a tutorial on my YouTube channel. So use memo is used to it executes your function, and then it caches the results of that function. So it stores the results. So basically, whenever you re-render your component, it checks the parameters that you are passing to that function, and if already cached the result, it returns back your result. But use callback caches the instance of your function. It's not executing the function, but it's just saving the instance of that function. Why is that useful? When you're creating, when you're passing in the properties to child component, if you're using memo for child component, they are getting re-rendered every single time when you're passing functions. And that's why you use callback to save the instance of the function, and then your child components are not going to get re-rendered. And that's why we use it. Great question. Okay, let me see a couple more questions. If there is, Vue.js tutorial, please. I'm not planning to start with Vue.js yet, but it's going to be. Probably we're going to cover more JavaScript frameworks, but after I finish up with the current ones. So, okay, so there's one question on Serbian language. Let me translate. How much we should know of vanilla JavaScript before starting with React? So I think that actually you should know it as better as you can, because when you understand the JavaScript, you understand what React is solving. I made the same mistake when I was starting. The jQuery was a big thing, and I first learned jQuery, then I got back to JavaScript. And if I'm starting right now, I mean, if I'm starting now as a junior developer, what I would tell to myself: go learn the fundamentals very, very well before you start using the libraries and the frameworks, because you would understand why these frameworks and libraries are there in the first place. Because there's a lot of things which are just pure JavaScript things in React, and you don't know what they're doing and same in Angular. But if you don't understand the JavaScript, it's going to be very hard for you to understand React. So I highly suggest you to learn to spend as much time as you can on JavaScript before proceeding to future libraries, frameworks, and all of that good stuff, right? Okay, so a lot of support. Nice workshop. Thank you, guys. I just missed it. Do you have a recorded one? Much appreciated. Please DM if you have. Yes, as I said, go to my YouTube channel after this workshop. It's going to be uploaded to a live section on the YouTube. So a couple more questions, and we are finishing up, because guys, we're almost hour and a half on this workshop. So okay, so which one is better for a state management? I need to be honest, I never used Recoil. So for me, Redux is good enough. And actually, I'm using Redux Toolkit. I think that's very simple to create, to manage your state in your application. And actually, we're probably going to include it in one of the next workshops to manage the state of our quiz app once it starts being more complex. Do you use Tailwind? What do you think of it? I use Tailwind. I think that it's good, but what I don't like about Tailwind is that their classes tend to become so large, right? Because sometimes I see that even now there's like these new patterns where you combine the classes and create new classes. So basically, you're reinventing the wheel. What we do in CSS is we write the class, and then we store the rules under those classes. So with Tailwind, you're creating classes and using them across your application, and sometimes you're just repeating so many classes on a certain places. So Tailwind is great. It's easy to work with, but for some use cases, it's just too overwhelming. So what I usually see in some of the projects is to use the combination of Tailwind and the regular CSS classes, because sometimes there's so many rules that you want to apply it to a certain elements. Tailwind is just too much to handle, so I just skip it, right? And I think that's it. Hopefully I answered most of your questions. And guys, thank you so much again. It was pleasure to have this first workshop. Stay tuned on LinkedIn to get informed about the future workshops, and hopefully you learn a couple of things here and there. And we're gonna cover so much things in the future sections. And hopefully I'm just watching the. Sorry, getting so distracted because I'm watching the chat and people are just sending messages. I'm sorry I cannot answer all of your questions, but there's gonna be more workshops, and please join me in the next ones. And it's gonna be awesome, like this one was. So until the next time, stay tuned and happy coding, guys. Bye bye.